33-story hotel and condo project.
I'd probably be
Okay,
like
like
that.
stop, tap.
This is a plan by the community for the community.
This one here, show me.
No problem, Ken. Thanks for having me.
It's Kent Mulgat for KelownaNow. And we're joined by Jodan McKenzie with the Central Okanagan Foundation. Thanks for coming in.
No problem.
So, it was your job to oversee what you call a point-in-time count of our homeless population.
Yes, I was hired by the Central Okanagan Foundation as the point-in-time count coordinator.
So, how does that work? How do you go about counting all of the people who you may or may not find at one moment in one evening here in Kelowna?
So the point-in-time count is a federal or national initiative where 61 communities across the country do a point-in-time count snapshot of homelessness. So this contributes to the national information that in their report.
Okay.
So for the point-in-time count, there's a nice rule book for us to follow and perform the point-in-time count.
Right, and you were saying that it's not like Jodan McKenzie had to go out there and do this all himself. You had how many?
I had a lot of support from the community, so I had a point-in-time count steering committee for stakeholders in the community that sort of guided me along the planning journey. So they were really important for planning the point-in-time count as well. And then that's on top of all the volunteers that actually came out for the
You were
night
saying
of the count.
113 volunteers.
So 113 volunteers, so 30 team leaders, so those are frontline workers in the community that led 83 student volunteers, so those from Okanagan College as well as UBCO. So we invited students from the faculties of social work, nursing, and medicine to come out for the night of the count.
So how does it work? You break then into smaller groups and you just move about in the neighborhoods?
So we mapped out the community similar to 2016 using the information that we found from RCMP bylaw security companies as well as our frontline workers in the community. So we mapped out the community, and then on the night of the count, 27 teams broke off and went into the community. So
right, and we see people that, you know, one might assume are homeless in certain areas of the downtown. There's also kind of wooded areas on the fringes that tend to be sort of go-to places. So those are the sorts of areas that your people were heading into?
Yeah, so exactly. So it was sort of a known area location that we sort of surveyed at large.
Right. But at the same time, you were saying before that the methods are that you're not supposed to kind of prejudge and say, that person looks like they'd be homeless, I'll see if I can get them on my list. You just, if they're in the area you're at, you approach them, even if they're about to get into a Mercedes. Yeah,
so we told our volunteers to approach everybody on the street. We didn't want them to have any sort of bias of who they're choosing as homeless on the street. So just approaching everybody, and then if they weren't interested in the survey, either if they had a home to go to, then they were just screened out, and so they weren't enumerated.
Right. So, you know, I've had some experience, sometimes for journalistic reasons, when you want to approach a homeless person or photograph them, and you can get any range of reactions right up to, you know, full hostility. So were there any security issues that you had when you're sending people out to ask sort of nosy questions of people?
So we're fortunate that there was no incidents for the night of the count. We do a training session with all the volunteers, so we had a representative from the RCMP talk about personal safety on the street. And they were also going out with their team leaders, which are experienced frontline workers. So they're experienced of handling and how to approach those situations. And so there was no incidents.
No one had any real incidents?
No, that's great.
So what were the numbers? In 2016, I believe it was phrased as at least 233. So here we are, a couple of years later. What does the count say?
It's 286 individuals experiencing absolute homelessness on the night of the count.
Wow.
So we say it's a minimum number of those experiencing homeless because it is just a point in time. So we're not saying today that there's 286. The point in time count, that's how many we found for the night of the count.
Do you think that's a modest number? Do you think, you know, you get all this information about where to find homeless people, is there a chance that it's significantly higher?
I definitely, well, if we look at it from 2016, it's a 23% increase in those experiencing absolute homelessness.
Right. So you can go with that base count, regardless of the, you know, it's not a there's no 100% accurate way to do this, but you get out there, you do your best, you come up with a number. And if you use the same methods years later, at least comparatively, they become really useful numbers.
Yeah, so it's sort of set as a baseline. So we knew in 2016 that was our first baseline, and now we have, using the same methodology and the same way we did the count, we can reasonably compare the two counts.
Right. Do you mind if I ask you, you took on this project, and you had a template on how to do it, and you put it into place. Did you learn anything? Did anything come across? Did you change your view at all on homelessness, having gone through doing this?
Yeah, absolutely. So I really appreciated the coordinated effort of the point in time count. Obviously, I'm just one person, the pit count coordinator, but there's no way I could have done it without the whole community. So I coordinated with the steering committee, which was really important, as well as all the different organizations, because we also collected the systems data, which is the number of people that actually stayed in the shelter for the night of the count.
Right.
So to make it the most accurate as possible. And so there's almost 30 organizations that I was working with. And so just seeing that there are so many organizations in Kelowna working on or working with the homeless population is really, it's sort of a good feeling. And then that they were all willing to help me out, really, to do the point in time count was a really great feeling. And
Yeah.
yeah, we all came
But
together.
I think we all have an idea in our mind. We have feelings and emotions that, about homeless people.
Yeah.
But was there anything, having gone through this process, that kind of was enlightening or kind of changed your view at all about the people that we're talking about here?
Yeah, absolutely. And so we all know that everybody's story is different on the street. And so for part of our training, we wanted to sort of explain this to the volunteers that were going to go out into the community. And one of our individuals on our steering committee actually has lived experience. And so we got him to tell his story for the volunteers. And so it sort of set a good tone of going out into the community and sort of just listening and to every person as they filled out the survey. And
Right.
everybody's different and has a different story.
I was going through some of the numbers from the last count, and there's a lot of numbers there. There's things like 70% men. It's probably similar this time around.
Yeah.
But there was one little number that really kind of got me, and that was 2% kids under the age of 14 in 2016. Were there children once again that came up on this most recent survey?
So yes, so the point in time count does enumerate everybody from 0 to 14, which is our children population. And so they're not able to take the survey. But we did enumerate those that were experiencing absolute homelessness.
And there were some kids in this group
Yeah,
of
so
people?
the Okanagan Boys and Girls Club does have a youth shelter. And so they could have been enumerated there, as well as the Kelowna Women's Shelter. Any individuals
Right.
staying in a violence against women shelter are considered to be homeless.
Right. So just to clarify then, some of the people that you would count as homeless might even, for that given night, have a roof over their heads. It's just not their roof.
Yeah, so if you consider those that are at Kelowna Gospel Mission on the night of the count, they have shelter for the night, but they are experiencing
That
absolute
counts
homelessness.
as absolute homelessness if
Yeah.
they're just taking a bed in a facility like that. That still counts as homeless.
Mm-hmm.
So there would be a smaller number out of that, say 280 some odd, that would be actually,
So
on the street or under the stars.
So we define that as unsheltered homelessness. And
Right.
so that's if they're living on the street or in parks or on benches. And
Do you have that breakdown to give me out of the?
Yeah, so we had 52 individuals that were planning on staying on the street for the night of the count.
Right. So, yeah, you say there's a whole template, you had rules to follow, and you got it all done. Is it a good feeling to have made that contribution? Because this is a big issue for the city.
Yeah, and so I was really happy to be part of this project and contribute to the process moving forward in addressing homelessness in the community. And so I really hope that this point in time count and the information that we got from the individuals that participated in the survey can help them transition out of homelessness.
Right. So if someone is still is curious about all of the details that you were able to compile, how can they find out for themselves and read through what you came up with?
So the full reports is on the Central Okanagan Foundation's website, so centralokanaganfoundation.org. There's the full report with all the details that hopefully you could ask for. And then there's also a survey that's on the website as well. So you can look at the survey that we administered in the community.
Terrific. Jodan McKenzie, thanks for coming in and filling us in about your important work.
Thank you so much.
And thank you for watching Kelowna Now.